So, Krafton responded to the lawsuit, and it's hilariously bad. So bad, in fact, that I had to ask my Discord server if I should even make a video on this, because 90% of the document is just repeating the same sentences over and over again. But apparently, you guys wanted me to, so here we are. This is the document Krafton submitted. Right at the beginning, Krafton again claims that the devs have not earned the multi-million-dollar payout. And worse, they now ask to be reinstated. Oh no, how horrible. They also claim again that Charlie and the other leads had abandoned their positions years before they ever felt this action. And again, I discussed this last time. That is most likely not what happened. Right on the next page, they then use, in my opinion, extremely deceptive language to show how much money the devs got. I don't know why, but the use of "they pocketed an additional earn-up amount" just seems really shady to me. And again, they completely neglect to mention that the devs shared this with the other devs. Then they go over some more of the deals about how they agreed to keep the same operational control and so on and so forth. They then say again that Cleveland and McGuire abandoned their roles, and that Gil, who remained, was focused on leveraging his operational control to maximize the earn-out payment, rather than developing a successful game. And I might be biased, I probably am, but Krafton here is complaining about a developer trying to hit revenue targets. Yeah, right, that's totally not suspicious. We then get a quote from the development director at Unknown Worlds, who apparently told Gil that people thought Max and Charlie had checked out as studio heads and were confused as to why. And again, yes, they did. That's why their job titles had changed. They were no longer the studio leads, they had different jobs. I'm not going to go over this again, I did in my last video, which is linked there if you want to see it, but this makes perfect sense and fits into what I explained in my last video, where Krafton is just trying to paint them in a bad light. Again, this is just really deceptive. A little further down, they mention Krafton's internal feedback form, which got leaked a while ago, where they say that Subnautica 2 wasn't ready for release. And again, from all we've seen, it very much was ready for an early access release. Not a full release, by far, but again, we're talking early access here. It doesn't have to be a complete game. And even playtester feedback said it was ready. They then say that a premature early access release could cause irreversible harm to the entire IP franchise and mention Kerbal Space Program as a prime example. Now, I don't know much about Kerbal Space Program or Kerbal Space Program 2, which they quote here, but I really doubt that they use early access the same way Subnautica did. So this point just doesn't make much sense. They also mentioned that the first early access would only be about 12% of their intended 1.0 scope, which doesn't sound that bad to me. Especially considering this game is a lot bigger than Subnautica 1 or below 0, 12% seems reasonable for start of early access. I mean, I expect early access to last 2-3 years, maybe even more, so I think that's a reasonable starting point, especially with all the groundwork out of the way so they can develop new features faster, because all the backend systems are in place. So really, Krafton has no idea what they're talking about. Krafton, of course, was only worried how the fans would react to the game if it was released too early, and nothing else. And then we get a quote from Charlie. We knew a long time ago that we cannot have this company live or die by its founders alone. And furthermore, companies often are limited by their founders. The company, in order for it to succeed, needs to bring new talent in, train those people, and cover your weaknesses, and get better over time. This is how we started Subnautica 2. I knew from the beginning, all of us knew, I wasn't going to be running that team. I wanted to hire someone bigger and better than me for that sequel. They tried to spin this as a, oh, we are not coming back to a job that we don't have, and as them declining to work on the game. But again, they had changed jobs, and I think that admitting that a project is too big for you and that you're looking for someone better to work on it instead is quite honorable, actually. So asking them to come back to a job they didn't have, because they never worked in leading roles for Subnautica 2, Makes no sense. And then they randomly claim that key employees secretly downloaded massive amounts of confidential information from unknown worlds, with no proof, reason, context, or explanation. They just throw that in there. What? I know this does not come up again as far as I can tell. We then get a quote from an employee who apparently said that he was confident Ted Gill will concoct a scheme to get us that earnout. Now obviously this isn't how they intend you to hear it, but I think that with the context of a publisher doing everything they can to avoid paying you, to me that just reads as a I have faith in Ted that he won't let us down and let Krafton scam us. But that might just be me. You can let me know what you think about this in the comments. And then, here's the banger. Krafton has invested $500 million in Subnautica 2, 3, and 4. What? Why are you even thinking about Subnautica 3 and 4 before Subnautica 2 is even out in early access? What is wrong with you, Krafton? Maybe finish Subnautica 2 before you start working on Subnautica 4, even if it's just concepting. Oh, this is so stupid. Now, I doubt they were like actively developing Subnautica 3 and 4, and I would hope they weren't even really planning them much. But why are you even thinking about Subnautica 4 before you even release Subnautica 2 in early access? What? Now, they then move on to the firing of the founders, where they claim that it was consistent with the terms of their agreements and not a breach of contract. So I guess we'll have to wait and see who was right here. And then finally, Krafton responds to all the allegations in the original lawsuit. Well, kinda. For example, in the original lawsuit, the founders said this. 4 years ago, Krafton purchased Unknown Worlds Entertainment, a wildly successful independent video game studio. Krafton's response? We denied the first sentence except admitting we bought it. Krafton, why are you so petty that you're not even willing to admit that they were successful? What? Now this is actually one of the funniest parts in this entire lawsuit. In their lawsuit, the founders said, key to Subnautica's remarkable success and to the ethos of Unknown Worlds as a company was its release into early access. You wanna know what Krafton said? I bet you can't guess Krafton's response to this. Our defendant denies these allegations. Huh? What? Not only are these not allegations, these are fact, Krafton. Unknown Worlds almost went bankrupt before they released the game into early access. It is literally the only reason we even have Subnautica. I genuinely don't get how you can be this dense. And the best part? When we actually do have an allegation, they avoid answering. Yes, really. The promise of such immediate and enormous success presented a problem for Krafton. Certainly, it eventually wants the game to drive revenue, but a blockbuster launch, squarely within the earnout period, would likely trigger the $250 million earnout to the studio's former owners and employees. What do they respond? The allegations characterize claims or contain legal contentions and require no response. Really, Krafton? You couldn't even say, no, that's not our reasoning? Oh hey, the next part are allegations again. Surely Krafton will respond to them this time. Right? Krafton engaged in a months-long campaign to delay Subnautica 2's release. It pulled key marketing materials, refused to follow through with crucial partnerships, and reneged on long-standing commitments to handle important pre-launch tasks. Yeah, this was one of the biggest allegations. They can't just ignore this. Right? Right? The allegations characterize claims or contain legal contentions and require no response. Yes, they do! You idiots! Oh! At least they respond partially and say they didn't pull marketing support or abandon partnerships or anything, but if the founders couldn't prove this, I really doubt they would have included it. Are you starting to see the pattern? In this entire document, it's, oh, we don't have to answer this when there's allegations, and oh, we denied these outrageous allegations when there's just facts. What's even funnier is the part where the founders bring up the insane backlash from the entire community. Here, Krafton's lawyers just say, our defendant lacks knowledge or information sufficient to form a belief as to the allegations, that word again, these are not allegations, and denies them on that basis. Krafton is actually trying to tell us that the hundreds of news outlets covering the story, all the angry fans flooding the Subnautica Discord server for weeks, all the content creators being mad at Krafton, all the Reddit threads and tweets are not enough to see that the community is mad? How dense are you, Krafton? Sorry, gotta calm down. This company is actually making me mad with how dumb they are. That's impressive. How are you a company that's already in a giant controversy and you put out something like this? Jeez. Oh, by the way, you can get 10% off gamer subs with the code AKI or the link in the description. Smoothest sponsor ever, I know. In this paragraph, the founders mention that this situation already caused damage to Subnautica 2's reputation and undermined fan anticipation. And it definitely has. I know a lot of people who aren't excited for the game anymore. And then Krafton has the gall to respond like this. The allegations characterize claims and contentions, so we don't have to respond. And then they respond anyways. Yeah, I don't know what they were thinking here, but let's see what they have to say. Nah, the fans will be fine. Okay, I paraphrased here a bit, but what do you mean you deny the allegations? You can't deny the fact that you actively hurt Subnautica 2's reputation and ruined many people's excitement for the game. Well, this just keeps going and going. Just a lot of we deny these allegations or we don't have to answer this. The one good thing about this is I'm now sure the founders are going to win this lawsuit because Krafton's response is complete garbage. I'm just shocked they had the audacity to pretend early access isn't the reason Subnautica is as successful as it is, or even the reason that it exists in the first place. Well, what do you think? Did I miss any shocking revelations? I really doubt it somehow, but if I did, you can let me know in the comments down below. Again, no outro because it feels a little odd in videos like this, but you can check out another video right up here. Come on, click it. It's getting awkward.